Hello and welcome to another maintenance video. This in effect is the second part of a two-part series on servicing the Leroy Somer's MVA electric furlers. In the previous video I took apart the In-Mast Furler. In this video I'll be looking at the outhaul furler. Buoyed by my somewhat relative success in servicing the In-Mast Furler, I didn't think that the outhaul furler would be much different, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So the outhaul furler is at the gooseneck end of the boom, and it basically operates an Anderson winch which sits on top of the boom via a pin which runs through the neck of the boom. And so you can't remove the furler until this metal rod is taken out, which is easier said than done, as you'll see. Now this Anderson winch operates a kind of pulley system which goes right to the back of the boom and back to the Anderson winch in a kind of like circular movement. On the pulley system, which is basically a piece of rope, is attached a connector which pulls the clew of the sail out. So this, in conjunction with the In-Mast Furler, operates the whole in-mast furling system. So the first thing I did was remove the plastic cover of the motor to get to the power cables, because the first time of servicing this you need to cut this power cable to basically remove the furler. I've been racking my brains working out how to get this off, this cable, but there's no actual break in it, so I'm going to have to cut it here, I think, so that when I splice it back together it's inside the housing. I didn't really want to cut that because it's quite watertight. Because I had to cut the wire to get the motor off because there's no joint in there, I'm just having to trim these back, and then I'm going to put some connectors on here and then put it inside the housing to kind of protect it from the elements. So once the power cables were cut, I just had to remove the pin. Now at first I just thought it would be a matter of knocking it up through the boom, so I tried that. So I'm just going to put some gaffer tape around the motor, because if that shaft does suddenly give way, the whole thing's going to drop on my head, so I don't want that to happen, obviously. To be honest, I tried everything to remove this pin, including car jacks on the deck of the boat. I've even tried putting a bolt in the end to give me some purchase, but as you can see, that hasn't worked either. It's actually bent the bolt. So I've just made some wedges. I'm going to try and put 4 wedges above this sort of plastic spacer thing, if I can kind of put a bit of pressure on it. But obviously it's fused together, so drastic action needed, I think. I removed the end cap to try and apply some heat to the pin in the hope that that might sort of break the seal. And I've got to be honest, it nearly had me defeated. It's just taken me 2 days and it still hasn't shifted, so I'm trying to modify a few things and make a pulley and just basically not too tight. So there was nothing else for it really but to remove the boom and take it ashore, where I could turn it upside down and give it some real good hammer action. And again, this is easier said than done, because there is a strange kind of bungee cord system attached to the topping lift which has to be dismantled before you can take the boom off. Even though this is dyneema rope, you can see that it's been wearing through there. So it's a good job I took those off. So once it was off, I could get the boom on shore and soak the pin in WD-40 and try again. So there's nothing more I could do really, except take the furler attached to the boom to a local metal workshop that had a hydraulic press and try and push the pin out that way. He struggled to release the pin and in the process destroyed the end cap, and even then the pin didn't come out. But after a couple of hours of heat, pressure and a lot of brute force, it eventually did come out, but not without a lot of damage. Today, we've dismantled the furler box and completely destroyed the plates. We were trying to get out the pin from there, and even with a 10-ton press it was really difficult and took about an hour with acid and various things. Obviously the bearing, this contained bearing is gone. That's the inner housing. The cogs actually survived the process. As they don't make these type of furlers anymore, there was no service pack, so the first thing to do really was to measure up all of the contents of the gearbox and put in an order back in the UK to get those sent out. It was going to take a week or two, so while I waited for these to turn up, I took the opportunity to give the rest of the components a good clean. I've got a little bit of diesel in the bottom there, some rags, and I'm just going to give everything a clean down, thin coat of grease on it, and then I've got to wait for the spare parts to come from the UK because I've ordered a lot of lip seals and bearings, probably more than I need actually. So eventually everything turned up, but there were still a few components which are a bit harder to source. So on these as well, these are made of Delrin, which I think Amel sell for about €65. Or the alternative is we modify the bit on the boom. So with the Delrin rings not in the best conditions and hard to source and the end cap destroyed, I opted for a partial rebuild of the gearbox.
We've machined the seal this way to stop oil and grease coming out. I'm going to machine a seal this end to stop water ingress from the top into the gearbox.
So we got the boom back today and we walked that back, 4 of us, but I didn't end up doing much of the carrying because I was too short. Now Woody's got to put the kind of motor back together, so it's all been fixed and the bit that broke has now been remade. He's definitely fed up of maintenance now. Obviously we're going to leave in a few days from here, and then hopefully after that we'll get to Gibraltar and have some nice days not doing any maintenance, so we're quite excited about that. But yeah, there's some jobs to do first. We're working non-stop really. So we've got the gooseneck as attached with the bolts, and then the kicker is going to be attached here, and then the main sheet will be attached on this one, I gather. There's 2 actually, isn't there? And then finally, the topping lift will attach to the end of the boom.
So I've got the boom back from the workshop. It's quite a struggle getting it there and getting it back, but we managed it. Getting this pin out was a major problem, but actually it's remarkably unscathed. Getting that out meant we broke the casing on the Leroy Somer's gearbox here. So a new one I think costs about €800 or something. It's ridiculously expensive, so that was out. So what we've done is we engineered a new piece. So basically it's a combination of the end cap and the Delrin ring, which is the mounting ring, and we've made a one-piece solution there. And what this does is it minimises the exposure of the shaft to the outside air, so hopefully it won't get as seized next time, because that sits inside the boom, and it's room for 2 seals because half the problem was there was a little bit of leakage going inside there, and so we've allowed for 2 lip seals on that. So there's the mounting rings, which is a replacement for that. There's more protective cover for the shaft, and there's a new engineered end cap. Still haven't got the bill yet. I have no idea how much it's going to cost. With the motor, I've cleaned up. I've cleaned off all of the old paint. I'm going to give that a respray. I've already crimped the ends on for the motor, so it'll be a lot easier to take off next time we have to service it. Just need to put it back together and put this on the maintenance list at least once a year to dismantle it, check the grease. Oh, the final thing as well is going to put a grease nipple there and an exit nylon screw there for the grease to come out. So now all we've got to do is give the shaft a bit of a clean. Actually that bearing is fine, so I just got to add a new bearing there. Replace the lip seals, made some custom made sanding rods there to get inside. Give this cog a bit of a clean up because it's quite grimy there. It's not in the best of cases, but it's still got quite a few miles left on it. And then we can put the boom back on, get it all back together, and hopefully that'll be it. Just put a bit of grease on there just to collect the iron filings and just give a little bit more lubricant to the drill. So I've got some M6 grease nipples here and some nylon cheesehead screws. I'd removed the grease nipple in order to do the painting, so now it was time to put that back. So this is the little bit of offcut of ore that I used when I did the manual furler, you might remember, but it's just the perfect size to knock these lip seals in. So this one's been designed so we can fit 2 lip seals in that one. So try and keep the water out a bit better than last time. So we've got the winch half assembled, but I can't get it fully together until the boom's sorted out. So put the new bungee inside here, and now I'm just greasing up the Anderson winch, and then we can fit the gearbox and furler underneath. So this is the bit that replaces the Delron plastic disc. We're going to head off in a few days and we need a furler. This should be the beauty of this design, is I can drop the gearbox off. It's a little bit more tricky to put together because I've got to set the key up there now. In. How long has it taken? 3 weeks?
8 weeks.
What?
We've been here since the beginning of October.
Everything's back in place, so now what we're going to do is use a grease nipple to fill it up with grease, secure everything, a few more bolts in there, connect the end connectors on there, join it up, job done. So just need to crimp the terminals on the end and join them up, and I'll put some heat shrink on there as well. So then it was time to do the testing. Ready? Yeah. I'll go the other way. And again. And again. Okay, perfect. And as the testing proved successful, I added the heat shrink to the power cable. There's been a few slight modifications I've had to make to fit this in place. There was a shackle here holding the bungee inside the boom. I've replaced that with a soft shackle inside here, and now I just need to fit the nuts in here and fill it with grease. And then replace the plastic cover. So I'm going to pack it with grease now. The ideal of this nylon bolt here is to make sure that the pressure doesn't build up and pop the seals. So it's coming out there almost full. When you've got a nice steady stream like that.
While getting the pin out, he managed to break this unit, so he had to rebuild it, and the bill for that was €500 today, which is way above what we all estimated it would be. So that's a bit of a shock.
I mean, this has been a long, laborious job. It started off with, I just wanted to service it, just make sure that the bearings were okay, and what should have just been a half-day job has turned into sort of 3 or 4 weeks, with obviously having to take the boom off. Is it a job I'd do again? I don't think so. I think in future, if there's a job like this, I'll just wait till it actually goes wrong. It's probably not the healthiest way to look at maintenance, but it does stop you from travelling, and that's the whole point of being here. Some people have replaced Leroy Somer's MVAs with Bonfiglioli furlers, which in hindsight, once the damage was done to the existing gearbox, I should have done that replacement myself, because it would have proved a lot cheaper and a lot easier. So I'll put that on the list of things to do further down the line. If I was you, I would leave it until it actually needs fixing. The only other job really is the Genoa furler. So what I'm going to do for that is, we're already past the point of leaving, we've kind of gone past our deadline date. So I'm just going to put some grease nipples in that and just make sure it's packed with grease, and then just keep an eye on it, and if it does start to go wrong, then I'll service it then. So thanks for watching, and thanks in particular to our patrons. This is a niche channel and doesn't create a lot of YouTube ad revenue, so any contributions via PayPal or Patreon are greatly received. And now you can also buy one of our crew shirts by following the links to our merch store. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.